The coffee was still warm when Rachel Westley vanished in the quiet suburb of Garland, north of Dallas, Texas, population 13,502. The first Monday in September, 2009 began with the dry, biting heat typical of Texas and a cloudless sky. At 8:10 a.m., Rachel's neighbor, Linda Cooper, saw the 32-year-old real estate agent wave goodbye as she left the house, holding a briefcase and car keys. Rachel was wearing a white blouse, beige pants, and walked to the silver Ford Fusion parked in the driveway, the car she drove to work every day. Cooper recalled that Rachel smiled, said, "It's going to be hot today," then turned away in the glaring sunlight. That was the last time anyone saw her. By noon, the 3-year-old son was found sitting alone in the living room, the back door ajar, and the coffee cup on the table still showing steam. What happened in the next few hours would haunt Dallas for the next 12 years. Before diving deeper into the story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the latest cases. September 2009, Dallas was drenched in scorching sun. The dry, hot air hung like a dusty glass pane. The streets glared brightly, and the suburban neighborhood sank into the familiar calm of a midweek morning. At the end of the row of red brick houses on Alton Street, Rachel Westley, 32 years old, real estate office worker, was preparing for a new workday. She lived with her husband Mark, an electrical construction technician, and their 3-year-old son. Their morning unfolded like any other: the hum of the coffee maker, the low radio in the kitchen, and the sound of a child laughing on the floor. Rachel dressed neatly, organized files into her bag, said she had a client meeting in East Dallas, and would head straight to the office afterward. Around mid-morning, neighbors saw her go to the car, pause at the gate to greet the mail carrier delivering papers, a light breeze tossing a few strands of hair from her shoulder. Her silver Ford Fusion turned onto the main road, merging into the flow of traffic, rushing through the melting Texas heat. No one suspected that was the last time Rachel Westley would be seen. By noon, with the sun high overhead and temperatures above 95 degrees, Mark returned home earlier than usual. The house was unusually quiet. The child was playing alone on the living room rug, the TV still on but the sound only a murmur. The back door was slightly open, curtains fluttering in the wind. He called his wife's name loudly, but got no response. On the table was the coffee cup she had been drinking from, her phone nowhere to be found. Mark grabbed his phone, called Rachel repeatedly, each ring dragging on before falling into silence. He searched every room, the yard, then back again, a growing unease, as everything in the house was intact, except for her absence. After nearly an hour of fruitless searching and calling, Mark picked up the phone and dialed 911. His voice hoarse as he said his wife had disappeared without a trace. The call was routed to the North Central Emergency Dispatch Center at 12:57 p.m. Within 10 minutes, the first patrol car appeared at the corner of Alton Street. 2 officers, Lieutenant Dana Brooks and Deputy Officer Michael Hensley, were assigned to handle the case. They walked through the open iron gate, quickly surveying the front scene: neatly mowed lawn, back door ajar, kitchen curtains still swaying in the wind. Mark stood on the porch, face dazed, his young son clinging tightly to his leg, not understanding what was happening. The police entered, documenting the scene. Everything was nearly intact. The living room was tidy. The dining table had 2 coffee cups, one with a faint lipstick smudge. The bedroom was neatly arranged. Bed undisturbed, closet doors closed, no signs of forced entry, no broken glass, no blood or foreign objects. Hensley walked along the back hallway, checking door locks and window frames, concluding no signs of break-in. Dana Brooks opened her notebook, jotting quick observations: house clean, no struggle, no missing property. The anomaly was the owner's absence. After inspecting the entire house, they began taking Mark's statement. He recounted the morning in detail, from when Rachel woke up, prepared for work, said she would meet a client in East Dallas, then left in a completely normal mood, no arguments, no tension. When he returned, the back door was open, the son alone, Rachel gone. Brooks asked about daily habits, friends, Rachel's schedule, then noted every detail. She asked Mark to describe the clothes Rachel wore when leaving, the items she usually carried. He replied that Rachel never went anywhere without her purse and phone, but neither was in the house. Police circled the yard, looking for footprints or strange objects, but found only lightly trampled grass near the back path, not enough to determine direction. Brooks knocked on neighbors' doors. Eleanor King, living next door, confirmed seeing Rachel that morning. Greeted me as usual, nothing strange. A paper delivery person also said she smiled when receiving mail, then drove off. No one in the neighborhood saw her return afterward. When initial notes were complete, the forensics team was called to photograph the scene and take fingerprints. Prints on door handles and kitchen counter matched Mark and Rachel, no unknowns. One technician noted in the report, indoor environment stable, no signs of violence, no signs of voluntary departure. Before leaving, Dana Brooks asked Mark to stay home, not move anything, and cooperate with further investigation. She returned to the patrol car, opened the electronic file on her tablet, and entered case details. Victim, Rachel Westley, female, 32 years old. Missing under suspicious circumstances. Case file, 09, Wes, TX, at 4:25 p.m. The preliminary report was sent to North Central Center with a recommendation to launch a search within a 2-mile radius of the victim's home. As the day faded, the harsh sunlight softened, warning lights on the patrol car roof still flashing slowly, reflecting on the silent house fronts. On the police department's electronic system, the case was confirmed as active missing adult, marking the official start of a missing person file that no one knew would drag on for over a decade. The next morning, the official search was launched. A temporary command center was set up right on Alton Street, where Rachel Westley lived. The North Central Area Police Force mobilized 3 patrol units, 2 K-9 teams, and nearly 20 local volunteers. They divided the area by radius, 1 mile around the house, the eastern residential area, and along the route to White Rock Lake. Overhead, a surveillance helicopter flew low, sweeping searchlights over empty lots. Mark was asked to stay home, waiting to provide additional information as needed. Neighbors stood sparsely at the street end, whispering. News of the disappearance spread quickly. The quiet morning neighborhood was replaced by radio chatter and dogs barking in the wind. Near noon, a South Division patrol car reported to the center. They had found a vehicle matching the victim's description. The silver Ford Fusion was discovered on the edge of a construction site in East Dallas, about 2.5 miles from Rachel's home. The car was parked at an angle on red dirt, front tires caked with dried mud, no signs of collision. Police quickly cordoned off the area, set up temporary barriers, and called the forensics team. Dana Brooks arrived at the scene, noted the license plate, and confirmed it was Rachel Westley's car. Doors locked, no pry marks. Through the window, she saw the driver's seat pushed back, rearview mirror adjusted off-angle. A few real estate flyers on the floor. When opened, the interior air was dry and stifling hot, no strange smells. They checked the trunk, back seat, glove compartment. Everything looked normal. Rachel's wallet and phone were not in the car. No blood, no suspicious items. The forensics team photographed, took fingerprints, measured tire tracks in the dirt. One technician noticed strange tire marks crossing behind Unity the car, possibly from a large truck, but timing undetermined. Brooks expanded the scene perimeter, ordered a full site sweep. Workers were briefly questioned. Most said the site was paused that day for electrical maintenance. Only city vehicles in and out that morning. Police noted crew names, movement times, vehicle types, and plates. The entire area was metal detected for dropped items, results unremarkable. Meanwhile, volunteer search groups expanded along the route from the victim's home to the car location. They split into small teams, checking gardens, parks, lake shores, and roadside woods. Harsh weather, temperatures near 100 degrees F, made the work grueling. Police coordinated via radio, reminding to maintain formation and log every finding, even minor. A specialized team checked traffic cameras at intersections around East Dallas. Some were operational, but most retained data only 24 hours, by now, most overridden. Brooks ordered backup of remaining frames for later comparison. As the sun set low, the search paused. The day's summary report noted, victim's vehicle located, no signs of violence, no missing property, no origin point, or further movement direction identified. The car was sealed on site, transported to Dallas PD Analysis Center for detailed examination. At dusk over the construction site, police vehicles departed, leaving faint dust trails on the road. In Lieutenant Dana Brooks's duty log, the day's final entry was input. Second scene confirmed, victim's vehicle. Search expanded to 5-mile radius, no results yet. After Rachel Westley's vehicle was transported to the analysis center, the Dallas Police Department's Digital Forensics Unit began examining all trip data and traffic cameras along the routes she frequently traveled. They determined Rachel's daily route based on habit from her home on Olton Street to the office in Uptown, often stopping at an intermediate point in East Dallas if she had a client meeting. The camera system along Greenville Avenue, where she was believed to have driven that morning of her disappearance, was extracted for footage from 8 a.m. to noon. Among dozens of video segments, one frame near 10 a.m. showed the silver Ford Fusion heading toward White Rock Lake, with a matching license plate. After that frame, the car did not appear on any other cameras. GPS data recovered from the vehicle's tracking box indicated the last signal was recorded at 11:42 a.m. near the lake area, after which it lost connection. Analyzing engineers concluded the device was not malfunctioning, but most likely manually disabled, as the system log stopped abruptly without battery error or signal reports. Police tentatively concluded Rachel had stopped the car in the area around White Rock Lake before the vehicle was found more than 2 miles away. To verify, they reviewed activity in the area at that time. A city report showed the lake and surrounding roads were undergoing upgrades to electrical systems and urban surveillance cameras managed by the Dallas Public Works Department. The project began in early September, divided into 3 main zones, including the road segment where Rachel's final GPS signal vanished. Dana Brooks requested a check of the employee list working at the site on 9/16. The department's administrative office provided a list of 11 individuals, including engineers, electricians, and 2 system technicians. Among them was Eric Rader, the engineer responsible for surveillance camera systems, tasked with checking data connections in East Dallas and the White Rock Lake area. Rader was a veteran employee, 44 years old, with 18 years of service, a clean disciplinary record, and prior involvement in multiple traffic monitoring projects. Police verified that his city vehicle had a route partially overlapping Rachel's morning path. Initially, this information was treated as a professional coincidence, as the lake area saw dozens of city vehicles daily. However, to follow procedure, Brooks requested an interview with Rader. The session took place at the Public Works office that same week in the afternoon. Rader was cooperative, arriving on time and bringing his work log. He described his schedule on 9/16. I arrived at the White Rock area around 9 a.m. Checked the camera system, then moved to the inspection point on Mockingbird Lane. I only stayed about half an hour before leaving. When asked if he saw or interacted with anyone matching Rachel Westley's description, he replied, "No, I was working alone, didn't meet anyone, and there were no incidents in the area." Police asked if he remembered seeing any silver Ford Fusion nearby. Rader said many cars were parked around the site, and he didn't notice specifics. During questioning, he remained calm, answered concisely, and showed no signs of evasion. After cross-referencing with his work time report, everything appeared to match administrative records. However, when checking the GPS system of the city vehicle, coded 47R that Rader used, the technical team discovered a notable point. The vehicle's GPS signal was lost for approximately 18 minutes, coinciding with the time frame when Rachel's vehicle signal cut off abruptly. The temporary report noted City device experienced transmission error, but the exact cause could not be determined. Though the data was insufficient for conclusions, Brooks noted this detail in the record. She also recommended continued monitoring of public works activities, as the construction site was the intersection between the two roads where Rachel's signal vanished and where her car was found. In the end-of-day summary, the technical team concluded, victim's vehicle stopped near White Rock Lake, GPS device manually disabled. City electrical construction occurring simultaneously. One technician, Eric Rader, present in the area, reported performing system checks. This report was forwarded to the official investigation unit with the recommendation to track city personnel data to verify movement during the signal loss window. Rachel's disappearance, initially viewed as personal, was now expanding into the public works domain, but no basis yet existed to determine a connection between the two. When trip data analysis failed to yield clear leads, the investigation team returned to the most viable direction, the last person to see Rachel before she vanished. Her husband, Mark Westley. In most missing persons cases, close family members are the starting point of investigation, and this case was no exception. Lieutenant Dana Brooks was tasked with taking additional statements, focusing on details Mark might have overlooked in the initial session. The interview took place at North Central Police Headquarters, 2 days after Rachel's car was found. Mark appeared exhausted, with deep circles under his eyes and a hoarse voice from lack of sleep. He repeated the same story that morning. Rachel was normal, showing no signs of distress or worry. She left home with files, saying she would meet a client in East Dallas. When asked about their marriage, Mark insisted there were no serious conflicts. They had been married 8 years, had a 3-year-old son, and were financially stable. Brooks took meticulous notes, cross-referencing every detail with timeline data. She requested Mark provide his work route on 9/16s, including locations and entry-exit times at the site. Company verification showed Mark worked in the Garland area, about 15 miles from home. The time clock recorded him clocking in at 8:25 a.m. and leaving at 11:15 a.m. for lunch, matching his statement about returning home. However, between those 2 points, there was no GPS data or independent witnesses confirming his whereabouts. To rule out involvement, police collected Mark's DNA sample and conducted a standard polygraph test. DNA test results were stored, with nothing to compare since no biological samples were recovered from the scene. The polygraph session lasted nearly 2 hours, with questions revolving around the relationship, schedule, and final contact with his wife. Upon completion, the technician reported inconclusive results. Some responses showed stress reactions, but not enough to conclude deception. Brooks noted in the report, high cooperation level, psychological instability due to pressure, requires further monitoring. Despite no direct evidence, the investigation unit still had to list Mark as the primary suspect in internal reports. The reason was simple. No witnesses confirmed Rachel left with anyone else, and the disappearance window coincided with when he left work. For further checks, police obtained financial surveillance warrants. Bank records showed the couple's joint account operating normally, with no unusual transactions, large withdrawals, or strange transfers. Mark's credit card only recorded spending at a gas station near the work site that morning and a lunch receipt at a small diner near home, matching his statement. His mobile phone was checked for call logs, messages, and location. Results showed no suspicious contacts. Several of Mark's co-workers were called in for statements. They described him as quiet, not very social, but never showing violent behavior or conflicts. One employee said Mark left the site on time that day, with nothing unusual. Still, within the police force, the lack of corroboration, time gaps, ambiguous polygraph, kept him the focus of suspicion. Brooks requested the surveillance team conduct covert monitoring, logging Mark's movements and communications for the next 3 days. Subsequent reports showed he mostly stayed home, repeatedly calling police for case updates. He also contacted a law office for advice on temporary guardianship for his son. This behavior was assessed as consistent with a cooperating family member, but to the investigation team, it did not fully rule out the possibility he was hiding something. Meanwhile, the technical unit continued processing Rachel's car, but found no biological traces or signs of violence, further weakening physical suspicion against Mark. An internal meeting was held to summarize the initial phase. The presented report stated, "No clear evidence against or verifying innocence of the husband. Motive undetermined. Need to expand investigation beyond family relations." However, in the internal classification table, Mark Westley's name remained under person of interest, high priority, meaning a related individual requiring close monitoring. Leaving the meeting room, Brooks felt the case was stalling. Every piece of data was reasonable to the point of being unreasonable. No one saw Rachel after she left home. No evidence she was attacked, no sign she left voluntarily. While no new direction emerged, the husband remained the only name mentionable in reports, guilty or not. In the following days, as the family-focused investigation yielded no progress, the entire force was redeployed to the field to continue search operations. Police expanded the sweep beyond the Alton neighborhood, concentrating on the White Rock Lake area where Rachel's vehicle GPS signal cut off, along with industrial zones and empty lots east of the city. Early fall Texas temperatures remained high, with search work conducted under blazing sun, road dust, and the sound of helicopters circling overhead. Over 10 days, coordinated teams worked in shifts. K-9 units swept lake shores, dive technicians checked shallow waters, while volunteer and civil defense forces combed both sides of grassy banks. Police set up temporary checkpoints to gather tips from residents, posting Rachel's photo at public points, gas stations, and supermarkets near the area. Some reported seeing a brunette woman driving alone near Highway 30, but traffic camera data checks yielded no confirmation. Each evening, Lieutenant Dana Brooks compiled reports from all groups, but the notable findings list remained empty. Rachel's car had been fully examined, fingerprints only from the owner. No signs of violence or coercion, no foreign DNA. This weakened the known offender theory, as any attack would likely leave traces on the vehicle. After scanning terrain around White Rock Lake, forces shifted to the eastern industrial area, with abandoned warehouses and scrap yards. Police used metal detectors and thermal sensors, but found no signs of the victim or personal items. An interagency meeting was held between Dallas PD and the FBI field office. Behavioral analyst, Special Agent Carl Jensen, was invited to review the file. He proposed simulating Rachel's final journey based on GPS data, cameras, and average travel times between stops. The simulation showed she left home around 8 a.m., headed east, briefly stopped near the lake around 11 a.m., then vanished from all monitoring systems. Jensen suggested that with the short travel distance and sparsely populated area, Rachel was highly likely suddenly intercepted or lured to stop, rather than leaving voluntarily. He offered a temporary hypothesis, random abduction, possibly by a stranger on a quiet road. This hypothesis was logged in the report, but also reduced the priority of internal investigation leads due to no specific suspect. The investigation team decided to conduct one final expanded search within a 5-mile radius from the car location. Over 7 days, they scoured the entire city landfill, old concrete dumping grounds, and rarely traveled residential roads. Results remained zero. No body, no key evidence, no new witnesses. In subsequent meetings, several officers expressed doubt that the victim might have left the city somehow, though this possibility had almost no basis. Local news gradually stopped updates. Rachel's image on missing persons boards faded under the sun. Each month, Lieutenant Brooks still had to submit case status reports to superiors. The lines repeated almost identically, no new leads discovered. No results from bank tracing, credit cards, or phone. Time dragged on, and public interest waned. By early summer the following year, after 9 months without progress, the investigation unit recommended transferring the file to inactive status. On July 2, 2010, the Dallas Police Chief's Office approved closing the case. All documents, evidence, and investigation records were sealed, coded 09, WES, TX, and stored in the Dallas PD Criminal Investigation Division's Cold Case Archive. The file was not thick, containing only a few statements, DNA test copies, scene photos, and brief summary reports on search progress. On the file's spine, "Missing adult, suspicious circumstance," was typed, with a handwritten note below. No further development as of July 2010. From then on, the file was rarely touched. Lieutenant Dana Brooks, who handled the case for 9 months, was reassigned to another unit. The technical team disbanded. Samples moved to long-term storage, lying dormant on metal shelves, alongside hundreds of other stalled cases. For authorities, the case only appeared in annual statistical reports under pending case review. For those involved, life gradually slipped out of the investigation's orbit. Eric Rader, the public works systems engineer, who had been briefly questioned during the tracing process, retired in early 2011 after 19 years of service. His personnel file recorded the reason as completion of duties and retirement at personal request. He sold his old apartment in the Garland area and moved to Plano, a quiet town north of Dallas. New neighbors described him as polite, reserved, regularly walking his dog in the mornings and attending church on weekends. No one in the neighborhood knew or remembered that his name had once appeared in a 2009 investigation report. With a clean public service record and a quiet personality, Rader quickly blended into normal life, gradually disappearing from all police surveillance lists. The Westley family also left Dallas not long after the case was closed. Mark quit his job at the old company and moved to live with his parents in Oklahoma. He took his son, then 4 years old, away from the prying eyes of neighbors and the half-pitying, half-suspicious attention from the local community. The media, which had covered the story heavily in the early days, fell silent. The story of the woman who vanished on a September morning became just a small entry in the archive of old news. On the Texas Missing Persons System, Rachel's file remained displayed, accompanied by a faded photo and the description, female, Caucasian, 32 years old, at time of disappearance, possible foul play. No one added further details. In the following years, Dallas developed rapidly. Areas once thoroughly searched were leveled, built over or converted into commercial zones. The construction site where Rachel's car was found was replanned into a parking lot for a sports complex. White Rock Lake, once the search focal point, returned to peace with paved pedestrian paths and newly planted trees. Those who participated in the 2009 search, volunteers, police, workers, when asked later, all said they had nearly forgotten the case. Time had pushed everything into the haze of memory. At Dallas PD, the cold case archive grew thicker each year. Forgotten files were only reviewed when technology advanced or new evidence emerged. File 09, Wistex, remained in place, numbered row C12, between 2 other disappearances from the same period. The 2015 periodic report noted, no new information added. The only time Rachel's name resurfaced was during a 2017 document inventory, when a team of technicians checked samples to prepare for archive relocation. The transfer confirmation sheet bore the signature of an intern, marking the last time the file was moved. For 9 years, the case had no updates. No one called with further questions, no strangers came forward with information, and no signs forced police to reconsider. Mark Westley, after stabilizing his life in Oklahoma, stopped contacting the investigation unit. The child grew up knowing his mother only through old photos. In Plano, Eric Rader continued his relaxed retiree life, gardening, attending church meetings, joining the local photography club. The flow of time gradually erased all connections between people who had once appeared in the same file. For Dallas police, 09, STX, was just a number in a long list of unsolved cases, a faint file with no witnesses, no suspects, and no one mentioning it anymore. For nearly a decade, Rachel Westley's name existed only in the cold evidence room archive, among hundreds of similar files, until one April morning in 2019, when in the city of Mesquite, a peaceful town 20 miles east of downtown Dallas, a sewer repair crew discovered something unusual in an old pipeline along Franklin Road. On the morning of the 11th, a team from North Star Infrastructure Services was dispatched to the area near an abandoned materials warehouse, formerly an old concrete transfer station. As the excavator lowered into the first underground pipe section, the operator noticed a bright-colored object mixed in the dry soil. At first, they thought it was animal bone, but the uniform curve and deep burial position prompted the site supervisor to halt construction and notify local police. Less than an hour later, Mesquite patrol units arrived, cordoned off the area, and called the Dallas City Forensics team for assistance due to the location straddling the administrative boundary between two counties. Beneath more than a meter of soil, they successively uncovered additional human bone fragments, ribs, arm bones, and a skull section with intact dental arch. Beside them was a tarnished silver bracelet, inner surface engraved with two faint initials, ROD. The technical team collected all evidence, marked positions, photographed the scene, and transported everything to the Dallas Crime Lab for analysis. 3 days later, the forensics lab's preliminary report concluded the remains belonged to a female, estimated age 30-35, height approximately 5'5". Based on decomposition level, time of death was determined to be over 8 years prior. No signs of fractures from impact, but the neck area showed light indentations on the hyoid bone. Possible cause of death: asphyxiation or strangulation. The only remaining item was the silver bracelet. No clothing or identification. Mesquite police reviewed missing persons lists in the area from 2008 to 2012, but found no matches. When data was uploaded to the Texas State Center for DNA comparison, the CODIS system automatically matched a sample stored in Dallas PD's old files, victim identifier 09-2AS-TX. When confirmation was sent back, the Dallas Criminal Investigation Division immediately reopened the file. The nearly decade-forgotten documents were removed from storage shelves. Cold Case Lieutenant at the time, Richard Morales, directed the technical team to re-extract all original data. Rachel Westley's DNA samples, collected from a toothbrush and hair during the 2009 investigation, were finally compared with dental samples from the remains. Results matched 100% across all 23 genetic markers. The forensic report stated clearly, positive identification, Rachel M. Westley. The missing persons case officially transitioned to a criminal death investigation. On April 18, 2019, Dallas police held a brief press conference. The spokesperson stated, remains found in Mesquite have been identified as belonging to the 2009 missing person, Rachel Westley. We are coordinating with the cold case unit to review the entire file. The information quickly spread to local newspapers and North Texas news networks, though it did not create a media frenzy. Most Dallas residents only vaguely remembered the disappearance that had briefly appeared on television a decade earlier. In the lab, analysts continued examining the bone samples. Some chemical traces on the surface indicated the remains had been temporarily submerged in a moist environment, possibly a drainage pipe or old sewer, matching the excavation site. They recovered a very small synthetic fiber fragment, possibly from clothing or binding material. Though insufficient to reconstruct the death scenario, technicians agreed the body had been moved post-mortem and buried superficially. The remaining bracelet portion was cleaned, revealing the inner engraving clearly, or W initials matching the victim. With the file reopened, the investigation team had to review the entire 2009 event chain. All old reports, from the car discovery location map to the list of interviewed individuals, were reprinted and digitized. On the police department's new management system, Case 09, EWES-TX was reactivated, changing from inactive to reopened. An administrative note recorded, need to verify connection between remains discovery location and victims' recorded GPS movement data from 2009. Morales reported to leadership that the remains site was approximately 5 miles southeast of White Rock Lake, near the Dallas-Mesquite County line, and less than 2.5 miles from the construction site where Rachel's car was found. The geographic coincidence elevated the case to high priority. An interagency investigation team was formed, including Dallas PD officers, representatives from the Dallas County Sheriff's Office, and 2 FBI field office forensic specialists in Texas. In late April, the field team returned to the remains discovery area for expanded checks. Ground-penetrating radar and geological scanners were used to determine if additional evidence was buried. Within a 50-meter radius around the drainage pipe, they found only a few pottery shards, rusted metal, and an old nylon cord section. Though insufficient to confirm relevance, all materials were collected. The supplemental field report concluded, body buried in artificial environment, likely transported by vehicle. The phrase by vehicle immediately reminded the team of a detail from the old file, the city vehicle operating in the area in 2009. News of the remains discovery also reached Mark Westley through a police liaison. He remained silent for a long time, then said only, "I knew she was no longer alive." The Westley family from Oklahoma submitted a request to receive the body for burial once identification was complete. But before release, forensics had to retain bone and hair samples for additional analysis. All procedures followed criminal investigation standards, as the case was no longer considered a simple disappearance. At the end of May 2019, the final update for this phase was entered into the system log. Remains confirmed as Rachel M. Westley. Discovery location, Mesquite, Texas. Case type, homicide investigation. Status, reopened and under reassessment. After 9 years without a single line of news, the Alton Street disappearance officially returned under a new name, an unsolved murder. After the Rachel Westley case was reclassified as homicide and restarted in May 2019, Dallas police officially assigned the file to the Digital Cold Case Unit, a newly formed group within the Criminal Investigation Division specializing in old cases using data analytics and electronic device recovery. The lead investigator appointed was Detective Sarah Donnelly, 29 years old, former computer forensics specialist, previously involved in cybercrime and digital fraud investigations. She was described as meticulous, quiet, with a habit of reviewing entire files from the beginning rather than just summaries. On June 4th, Donnelly received all evidence for Case 09, West text from storage, the silver Ford Fusion, victim's personal laptop, GPS data copies, scene photos, and a small bag containing a damaged USB drive recovered from Rachel's purse in 2009, but never previously accessible. Donnelly's first task was inventorying and digitizing all old data. She spent nearly a week reading over 400 pages of documents, organizing chronologically, disappearance, search, initial investigation, and no results. Conclusion. While reviewing the evidence list, the entry USB, unreadable, suspected memory chip damage, caught her attention. Data recovery technology 10 years earlier was very limited, whereas current devices allowed bit-level scanning to retrieve deleted or hardware-damaged data. Donnelly submitted a formal request to the Texas State Digital Analysis Lab, asking for device recovery using multi-layer laser scanning. The process took nearly 2 weeks, requiring disassembly of circuit layers and scanning memory segments. In mid-June, the lab returned results, one file recovered, video format, named cam_1609.av. Small size, just over 30 megabytes, timestamp September 16, 2009, at 8:47 a.m., the exact day Rachel vanished. Donnelly backed up the file to the server, checked it with specialized software to avoid malware, then opened a preview. The image was blurry, low angle, apparently recorded from a camera mounted on a house eave in the Alton neighborhood. The frame showed an empty street, a few passing cars. About 8 seconds in, a white city utility truck appeared, moving slowly past the victim's house. On the door, despite glare, the green City of Dallas Public Works logo was clearly visible. Donnelly paused the frame, zoomed in on the license plate. The characters 47R appeared, clear enough to identify. She cross-referenced city administrative data and quickly found the information, truck coded 47R, assigned to camera systems engineer Eric Rader, Public Works employee, who had been interviewed during the initial investigation phase. This discovery prompted Donnelly to return to the original 2009 file. In the old statement, Rader's name was mentioned only once. In the section Interviewed Individuals, no relevant connection found. The conclusion was based on his work evidence matching the time Rachel vanished. However, at that time, no one knew a residential camera in the neighborhood had captured footage of his vehicle passing the victim's house. The video file from the USB now became the first visual evidence directly linking Rader to the scene. Donnelly prepared an internal report to Lieutenant Morales, head of the cold case unit, requesting full re-verification of Rader's GPS data and city vehicle logs for September 16, 2009. Before transferring the file, Donnelly continued examining the video file's technical attributes. The metadata confirmed it was created by a DigiView model DVC-110 camera, a type commonly sold for home use since 2008. The encoded IP address in the header data indicated the camera was on the Alton neighborhood's local network, within a 20-meter radius of the Westley home. Thus, it was highly likely a security camera from a neighboring residence, and Rachel had copied this clip to the USB. Since she worked in real estate, Donnelly speculated Rachel habitually stored client-sent data or videos. However, the critical detail was not the video's origin but the presence of City Vehicle 47, something never recorded in any prior report. Donnelly opened the file's audio track. Wind noise and engine sounds were clear, indicating the truck was moving slowly, as if the driver was observing something. No pedestrians appeared in frame, only a faint horn at the end. The video ended after 28 seconds. She exported all frames as still images, timestamped them, and saved to the recovered evidence folder. A copy of the video was sent to the Image Forensics Lab for authenticity analysis. The subsequent conclusion confirmed no signs of digital tampering. The file was original. To follow procedure, Donnelly created a comparison table between the victim's vehicle GPS data, city maps, and the camera's recorded position. From the Westley home to where her car was found, the only route passed the exact street where City Vehicle 47R appeared. If Rachel left home at her usual time, the two vehicles could have been in the same area mere minutes apart. This discovery was assessed as the case's first breakthrough after nearly a decade of stagnation. On June 21st, during the morning briefing, Donnelly presented all findings to superiors. She showed the video file, license plate photos, and Rader's personnel record extracted from city databases. Lieutenant Morales instructed her to document the entire recovery and storage process in detail for legal validity. The end-of-day report concluded, visual evidence shows City Vehicle coded 47R, owned by Dallas Public Works and signed out to engineer Eric Rader, appeared in front of victim Rachel Westley's residence on the morning of September 16, 2009, the same time the victim was last seen. Case file 09-2-WES TX was updated to active review. New digital evidence identified. Leaving the meeting room, Donnelly returned to her office, staring at the screen paused on the white truck frame. License plate 47R reflected the Texas sunlight from 10 years prior, still sharp through the haze of time. The text City of Dallas, Public Works, stood out like a reminder of a once overlooked link. In her notebook, she wrote a single line, restart point, 47R. Immediately after completing the USB video report, Sarah Donnelly expanded the search to the GPS data of city truck coded 47R. Per city retention policy, all Public Works vehicles were equipped with GPS trackers, data automatically backed up to a central server, and maintained for at least 10 years for audit purposes. Recovering old data was not simple, as the server had undergone 3 upgrades. Donnelly submitted a formal request to the city's IT department for location logs from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. on September 16, 2009. After nearly a week, The technical team provided her with a large file containing hundreds of time-stamped coordinates. Donnelly imported the data into specialized mapping software to reconstruct the route. The plotted path showed a series of dots extending from Public Works headquarters in Garland through East Dallas, around White Rock Lake, then southeast. Everything matched Rader's prior statement until she discovered an abnormal gap between two data points. In the GPS log, the time frame from 11:38 a.m. to 11:56 a.m. was completely blank, with no coordinates recorded. Prior to that, the device transmitted steadily every 30 seconds. After this period, signals resumed in the Mesquite area, nearly 8 miles from the last known point. The final status line before signal loss read Manual Override, Test Mode. Donnelly reviewed the GPS system's technical manuals and confirmed manual override could only be activated manually from the cabin control panel. This meant someone deliberately disabled the GPS for 18 minutes, then re-enabled it after the vehicle had moved elsewhere. Cross-referencing the map, the signal loss segment lay directly between East Dallas and Mesquite, encompassing the White Rock Lake area, where Rachel's car was later found abandoned. The subsequent route showed vehicle 47R stopping briefly for 4 minutes near a turnoff leading to an old materials yard, the exact location where Rachel's remains were discovered 10 years later. The entire dataset formed an almost perfect chain. Rachel's disappearance time, the city vehicle's route, the location where her car was found, and the burial site excavation. Donnelly checked GPS data from other city vehicles operating that day. None traveled this route in the same time frame. Vehicle 47R was the only one present in the area at noon on September 16, 2009. She requested the technical department verify the GPS unit's maintenance logs to rule out malfunction. Records provided by Public Works showed no repair reports in September 2009, with the unit only replaced in December when Rader took extended leave. All this made the technical error hypothesis difficult to accept. Donnelly prepared a 14-page preliminary report summarizing the recovery and data comparison process. In the conclusion, she wrote, "There is basis to determine the GPS device on city vehicle 47R was manually disabled during the victim's disappearance window." Subsequently, the vehicle appeared in the Mesquite area, approximately 200 meters from the future remains discovery site. No evidence indicates legitimate Public Works activity in that area on the same day. She attached an illustrated route diagram marking 4 key points: Rachel's home, White Rock Lake, the construction site where her car was found, and the Mesquite materials yard. The connecting lines formed a continuous 2-hour journey, showing Rader had both time and opportunity to complete this path. When presenting the report to Lieutenant Morales, Donnelly recommended re-interviewing Rader as a suspect, not just a witness. Morales reviewed every page, especially the data gap analysis. He requested final verification of coordinate accuracy. Donnelly contacted an independent state GPS validation lab, sending data copies for parallel examination. Results confirmed the coordinates were intact, with no signs of alteration. Dallas PD's official report was issued on July 2, 2019. In the summary sent to the police chief and Dallas County DA's office, a bolded note read, "Based on newly collected digital evidence, including footage of city vehicle 47R near the victim's residence and abnormal GPS deactivation coinciding with the disappearance, recommendation to initiate criminal investigation of engineer Eric Rader, City of Dallas Public Works employee. Case File 09, B West TX, was upgraded from reopened to active investigation." That night, Donnelly stayed late at the office, organizing data for the next phase. On her computer screen, the Dallas map displayed red dots, the travel trace of a white truck on a September noon 10 years earlier. In the lower corner, the final 2 coordinates lay nearly adjacent, the signal loss point and the remains discovery site. She zoomed in once more, noting in the day's final report, the 10-year gap in the investigation file has been filled by 18 minutes of GPS data. Primary suspect, Eric Rader. Immediately after the official report was approved, Sarah Donnelly shifted the investigation focus to Eric Rader's personal background and employment history. She requested access to personnel files from the City of Dallas Public Works, where he had worked for nearly 2 decades. The administrative department provided her with a thick dossier, including personal background, employment contracts, project lists, and annual performance evaluations. Rader was described as a technical employee who was competent, meticulous, and minimally communicative. Throughout his tenure, he managed urban surveillance camera systems, installing and operating hundreds of recording devices in downtown and eastern suburban areas. The 2008 project summary showed Rader directly participated in a pilot program for residential camera systems in several Dallas neighborhoods, including Alton Street, where the Westley family lived. This was the first detail linking him to a case-related location prior to the disappearance. Donnelly closely examined the monthly approved Public Works activity logs. In the 3 years immediately preceding the case, Rader was responsible for inspecting and upgrading security systems in 4 areas: East Dallas, Lakewood, Garland, and White Rock. These locations significantly overlapped with Rachel's daily commute route. His direct supervisor's evaluation noted, Rader prefers working alone, often takes equipment home for testing, no policy violations, but needs reminder on data storage procedures. Several internal maintenance reports included notes in his own handwriting, camera data backup, personal copy. To others, this might be a meticulous work habit. To Donnelly, it was a red flag, as retaining surveillance data copies outside agency scope violated security protocols. While reviewing the old personnel files, she noticed a gap. Many projects Rader managed lacked equipment handover records or data deletion logs. The department's archives stated that some backup hard drives had been self-stored by Rader at home to save inspection time. The response made Donnelly take note. She requested a detailed inventory of devices he managed in September 2009. The report listed 5 portable servers, 4 external storage drives, and 2 test cameras. No return confirmations. Some of these devices were noted as lost during upgrades. From the personnel list, Donnelly contacted the Public Property Management Division. Staff there clearly remembered Rader as someone who always insisted on personally checking every cable connection, not trusting others to touch his system. When asked, they confirmed he had requested to personally install cameras in the Alton area, citing ensuring resident security. This project occurred just months before Rachel vanished. Administrative records still held IP addresses and installation locations, including a camera at the head of Alton Street, the exact spot where City Vehicle 47R appeared in Donnelly's newly recovered video. Piecing together these facts, Donnelly recognized a dense chain of coincidences. The same person who designed the victim's neighborhood camera system drove the city vehicle appearing at the scene the morning of the disappearance, and then disabled GPS for 18 minutes to travel to the area where the body was found. She summarized all information in a memo to Lieutenant Morales. The content clearly stated Eric Rader, camera systems engineer, had technical access and control over the entire area around the victim's home. Habit of storing data outside agency scope should be considered abnormal behavior. To ensure objective evaluation, Morales forwarded Rader's entire file to the FBI field office in Dallas, requesting behavioral analysis and professional history support. FBI behavioral specialists, experts in technical and surveillance crimes, began reviewing online activity, work information, and personal connections during his employment. In the preliminary report, they noted Rader exhibited typical traits of control-obsessed individuals, meticulous, reclusive, often collecting imagery beyond task scope. No prior convictions or violent history, but his technological access and job position rated abuse of access potential as high. The FBI report was returned to Donnelly after 2 weeks. The summary concluded, individual Eric Rader displays behavioral pattern consistent with technical employees tending toward absolute control, possibly hoarding data beyond official purposes. Need to verify personal storage locations and retain devices. With this document, Donnelly officially had grounds to expand the investigation from GPS data routes to personal behavior and technology. In the final internal note of the review section, she wrote, "Rader is not just someone who was at the scene. He is the one who installed the observation system there." After receiving the behavioral evaluation report from FBI Dallas, Sarah Donnelly and Lieutenant Morales agreed to implement a covert surveillance phase on Eric Rader. GPS data and work records had placed him at the center of suspicion, but to obtain a legal search warrant, they needed specific evidence proving he was still retaining or manipulating work-related data. A discrete tracking plan was established, using the Urban Special Operations Surveillance Team. Over 3 weeks, from late July to mid-August 2019, 2 detective units rotated following Rader's every movement around Plano, where he had lived since retirement. The first days unfolded exactly as imagined for a man in his 50s retired from work. Morning dog walks, stops at the nearby grocery, afternoons at the Lutheran church attending council meetings. On weekends, he taught local scout troops survival skills, meticulous as if still performing technical duties. Rader lived with his wife, whose married daughter resided in another state. Neighbors described him as polite, punctual, fond of discussing electronics, and occasionally photographing landscapes with an old camera. All his behavior was so normal that the surveillance team believed, without the past data, no one could place him under suspicion. However, the second week of surveillance began revealing notable details. One Thursday evening, Rader drove his gray sedan out of the house near 7 p.m., without telling his wife. His vehicle headed south, merging onto Highway 75, then onto Mockingbird Lane. The tailing team recognized this route led toward East Dallas, where Rachel once lived. They followed until the car turned onto Alton Street, a road much changed after 10 years. There, a hidden camera on the surveillance vehicle recorded Rader pulling over opposite the Westley family's former home. He turned off the engine, sat motionless in the car for over 10 minutes, not leaving the driver's seat, phone light illuminating his face. Then he started the car and left, without stopping elsewhere. This behavior repeated twice that week. Each time, Rader only briefly stopped at the old neighborhood, usually late evening when streets were empty. In the surveillance report, the lead officer described, "Subject appears to observe specific area, no contact with anyone, focused demeanor, not coincidental." Donnelly reviewed all hidden camera footage, noting he always parked in the same spot, with a clear view of house number 1437, Rachel's former address. She compared his car's GPS coordinates from those nights to the map and found they perfectly matched the 2009 city vehicle 47R route segment. Concurrently with field surveillance, Donnelly obtained permission to access Rader's home electricity and internet usage data. Records showed sudden nighttime spikes, especially 10 p.m., 2 a.m., despite him living alone while his wife visited their daughter. Analysts suggested possible use of large computer or storage devices during these hours. Cross-referencing ISP logs, Donnelly discovered a series of anonymous accesses to old data archives and technical forums on camera systems. At the same time, the surveillance team noted another unusual habit. Every Monday morning, Rader drove to the Plano post office, mailing small, unlabeled packages with only Dallas downtown zip codes. When postal staff were questioned, they said he sent technical documents to a Dallas photography club. All these details, placed together, painted a picture of someone quietly maintaining ties to the city where the crime occurred. Lieutenant Morales reviewed the report and agreed with Donnelly's proposal to proceed to the next step, obtaining a search warrant. However, they could not cite the homicide due to insufficient charging evidence. Donnelly drafted the legal affidavit based on administrative violations, potential unauthorized retention of public data, and use of state-owned equipment outside official purposes. These grounds were sufficient for a federal judge to approve the search without revealing the true target. On August 15, 2019, the warrant application was submitted to the Garland County judge, attaching all 3 weeks of surveillance materials, video of Rader stopping near the Westley home, GPS comparisons, electricity data, and internet access history. In the conclusion, Donnelly wrote, "Search purpose determine retention, copying, or possession of undeclared public camera data. Suspect Eric Rader, former City of Dallas systems engineer." The warrant was signed the next morning, effective for 72 hours. Dallas police coordinated with FBI Dallas field office to prepare execution. That night, Donnelly and the special team sat in the third-floor briefing room, reviewing every captured frame, circling the single-story beige house in Plano, where they believed the answer to the 10-year case might lie dormant in some device, powered on during the lit nights of the man named Eric Rader. On the morning of August 17, 2019, the search warrant was executed. 6 Dallas PD cold case officers, along with 3 FBI agents, arrived at the single-story home in a quiet Plano residential area where Eric Rader lived. They arrived at 6:30 a.m., just as the sun was rising. Rader was making coffee in the kitchen when he heard loud knocking. The warrant was read aloud. He appeared surprised but did not resist. His wife, then in Oklahoma, was not present. Police instructed Rader to remain seated in the living room, with 2 officers supervising while the technical team began systematic searching. Primary target: data storage devices, electronic documents, or equipment formerly belonging to City of Dallas Public Works. The house was neat and clean, much like the surveillance profile: living room with family photos, orderly bedroom, no clutter. But upon reaching the office at the end of the hallway, police immediately took notice. The small room was tidy, but the desk held 4 external hard drives, 2 laptops, and a locked metal filing cabinet. All devices were labeled with dates, mostly in the 2007-2011 range, matching his public works tenure. Donnelly ordered the technical team to seal all hard drives and document seizure. When the cabinet was unlocked with a key found in the desk drawer, inside were dozens of neatly stacked paper folders, many labeled system logs, camera deployment, and White Rock project. While examining the second external drive, labeled WD2TB, the technician reported discovering a large folder named Projects. The folder structure was divided by year from 2007 to 2011. Under each was subfolders coded P07. P08, Donnelly ordered on-site data, copying while quickly browsing in thumbnail view. In the P09 folder, she saw a series of images and text files, many photos of public Dallas areas, including Alton Street, White Rock Lake, and Mesquite. Notably, a subfolder named RMW contained 3 clear photos of Rachel Westley in everyday situations, at her front yard, beside her car, and at the office. All 3 had timestamps within 2 months before her disappearance. None showed editing signs, and all were saved in sequential naming, suggesting a professional engineer's data organization. Continuing access, Donnelly opened a digital map file in the same folder, .kml format. The map displayed southeast Dallas, zoomed into an empty mesquite lot. On it, a red marker showed the brief text, Site M. She recognized the coordinates matched the exact spot where workers discovered Rachel's remains 4 months earlier. In the same folder was a text file named P09_note.txt. Upon opening, the first line appeared, Target secured. Store under Site M. Below were scattered descriptive lines, using technical terminology, interspersed with words like containment, verify path, and archive. The file's timestamp was dated September 17, 2009. One day after Rachel Westley was reported missing, Donnelly reread the first line, feeling a chill. The language in the file did not resemble work documentation. Target secured, objective ensured, store under Site M, store beneath location, M. The phrases carried a controlling tone, not standard technical procedure. She immediately backed up the entire drive, noting position, time, and signing the seizure record. The technical team continued deeper checks on other drives, finding additional city camera image files, including White Rock Lake system test videos. Many files were password protected, Others had odd titles like Observation, Monitoring Logs, and Draft 47R. While the technical team worked, Rader sat silently in the living room. When Donnelly asked about the purpose of storing this data, he replied briefly that it was old research material and that he habitually kept copies for professional reference. He denied accessing city data after retirement. However, when asked about the project's folder, Rader paused several seconds before saying, "That's just how I name projects." His calm demeanor, hard to read, made Donnelly even more vigilant. By midday, seizure was complete. Police took 5 external hard drives, 2 laptops, 13 paper folders, and 3 USBs. All devices were sealed and transported to the Dallas Digital Forensics Lab. Before leaving, Donnelly signed the warrant completion record, leaving a copy for the suspect. As the convoy departed Plano, Texas, sun poured through the windows, glinting silver on the evidence box label, Projects, P09. That afternoon at Dallas PD headquarters, the analysis team opened data copies in a secure environment. What appeared on screen further reinforced the initial hypothesis. The project's folder was organized like a parallel system to the public data network. Each year corresponded to a project containing photos, maps, and notes. The year 2009, P09, was entirely different. Besides the Site M map and target secured note, there were internal location log files simulating vehicle 47R's route, once used by Rader. The GPS map precisely showed the path from Rachel's home to the Mesquite area, with a red arrow ending at marker M. Specialists verified file metadata, confirming all were created and saved on the same device. With no post-2009 alterations, a short conclusion was printed and sent to Donnelly. P09 data is original source. Timestamps consistent with day after disappearance event. Content indicates planning to conceal object at Site M coordinates. That night, Donnelly stood in the analysis room, staring at the screen displaying the cold line, target secured, store under Site M. 10 years of investigation, countless discarded theories, now condensed into one short sentence, like a confession written among seemingly innocuous technical files. In her duty log, she wrote a single line, timestamp September 17, 2009. Rader establishes retention plan. This is no longer storage habit, but instruction. After completing data extraction and backup from the hard drives, Dallas police transferred the remaining evidence to the forensic lab for physical and biological analysis. Among seized items from Rader's home were various technical tools, electrical wire, rope, gloves, and old protective clothing. All were separately sealed, numbered by house location for future cross-reference. Sarah Donnelly was present at the handover, standing beside forensic specialists as they opened each evidence package. Her goal was clear: determine if any biological traces linked to Rachel Westley. Initial analysis was performed on fabric samples and rope recovered from the backyard shed. Among them, a beige synthetic fiber rope coil, about 30 meters long, drew attention as identical to the type used in city electrical work. When compared to the nylon fiber sample from Rachel's Mesquite remained site, microscopic results showed both had identical twist structure, elasticity, and polymer composition. Under UV light, both fluoresced the same characteristic green, indicating production from the same material batch. The forensic report stated clearly, nylon rope sample seized from suspect's residence has physical and chemical characteristics identical to sample found near victim's remains. Probability of random match, estimated less than 1/10,000th. At the same time, the forensic biology team began scanning for DNA traces on Rader's personal items. In the desk drawer, they discovered a multi-tool knife and an old pair of rubber gloves, both with tiny pinhead-sized dark stains. Samples were taken immediately and sent for analysis. Results after 3 days showed the blade trace contained a mixture of 2 people's DNA. One sample matched Rader's DNA profile. The other, when compared to CODIS data, matched absolutely with Rachel Westley's DNA. The results were sent directly to Donnelly on Tuesday morning. She reread the bolded conclusion line, "Match confirmed, 100% correlation between sample WD-01 and DNA profile of victim Rachel M. Westley." This was the first evidence directly linking Rader to the victim via biological data. The same day, the forensics team expanded checks on protective clothing and rags in the shed. A cotton fabric scrap in his clothing pocket contained female epithelial cells, also matching Rachel's DNA. The consecutive results reinforced the judgment that the victim had been present or handled objects within Rader's home or workspace. Parallel to biological analysis, the digital forensics unit finalized the comparison report between the PRISX/P09 files and GPS data. When cross-referencing the timestamp of the text file target secured, store under Site M, with the city vehicle route data, the system showed it was created within 30 minutes after the truck's GPS reactivated, around 12:30 p.m. on September 17, 2009. This data proved Rader was at the Mesquite location right after disabling GPS for 18 minutes on the noon. Rachel vanished. Specialists concluded timestamps align with actual travel path. No system discrepancies. Data file created in the same area as remains discovery coordinates. Donnelly compiled all results into a comprehensive report sent to Lieutenant Morales and the Dallas County DA's office. In the summary, she wrote, "Physical, biological, and digital forensic evidence all align and support each other. Solid basis exists, showing Eric Rader's direct involvement in Rachel Westley's death." The forensics lab also confirmed a key detail. The nylon rope coil in Rader's shed showed wear at both ends, one cut with a serrated blade, matching the cut pattern on the rope segment found in the Mesquite pipeline. Under electron microscopy, compressed and deformed fibers were identical, as if cut by the same tool. The multi-tool knife seized at the scene matched in size and serration structure. In simulation testing, the cut produced matched 98% with the original sample. Each scattered piece over 10 years, the city vehicle signal loss, Site M map, target secured file, nylon rope and DNA samples now fit into a unified logical chain. No room remained for random coincidence. Morales convened an emergency meeting at Dallas PD headquarters to consider next steps. Heads of forensics, digital, investigation units, and a DA representative attended. When Donnelly presented the evidence synthesis diagram, all agreed the authenticity level exceeded the threshold for an arrest warrant. In the conclusion minutes signed that evening, the final line read, "Compilation of physical, biological, and digital evidence shows error probability less than 1 in a million. Recommend Dallas County Court issue arrest warrant for Eric Rader on charges of kidnapping and first-degree murder." Donnelly closed the file folder, adding a short note to her duty log. DNA link established. Full match chain. 10 years finally narrowed to one conclusion. On the morning of February 17, 2021, nearly 2 years after the file was reactivated, Dallas police, coordinating with FBI Dallas Field Office, arrested Eric Rader at his Plano home. The arrest warrant was signed by Dallas County Court the previous evening, based on the Criminal Investigation Division and County Prosecutor's synthesis report, with forensic, digital, and biological evidence confirming his direct involvement in Rachel Westley's death. At 6:40 a.m., the special team surrounded the single-story house in the quiet Timber Creek residential area. When knocking sounded, Rader opened the front door in a robe, coffee cup still in hand. The arrest warrant was read clearly. "Eric Rader, you are under arrest for kidnapping, resulting in the death of citizen Rachel M. Westley, case occurring in 2009. He did not resist, only stood still for a few seconds, nodded slightly, set the cup on the table, and extended his hands forward. As Rader was handcuffed and led to the vehicle, a second search team entered. His wife, who had just returned from visiting their daughter, stood frozen in the living room, not understanding what was happening. A female officer briefly explained and handed her a copy of the supplemental search warrant. The house, already familiar to investigators from the prior search, was now checked more thoroughly, focusing on previously overlooked areas. In the garage, under a dusty tarp, they discovered a small locked metal cabinet. Upon opening, inside were neatly arranged hard drives and USBs, many labeled archived footage, neighborhood logs, and private backup. Several drives had handwritten codes matching Rader's former project's folder naming. Technical specialists quickly backed up data on site while discovering additional printed documents in the desk drawer, including address lists, security camera photos, and technical notes. Some clearly named women with descriptions habit, route, and activity pattern. The newest file timestamps were 2016, meaning he continued collecting and storing data years after retirement. Evidence was sealed and transferred immediately to Dallas PD for analysis. At the time of arrest, Rader maintained calm demeanor. As he was placed in the vehicle, he only asked briefly, "What else did they find?" No one answered. En route to headquarters, he gazed out the window, morning light reflecting on his deeply lined face. Neighbors, awakened by police vehicles and flashing lights, gathered on porches, silently watching the man once seen as a neighborhood model being led away in handcuffs. At Dallas PD headquarters, Rader was processed for detention and read his Miranda rights. The county prosecutor formally charged him with kidnapping, resulting in death under Texas criminal statutes, reserving the right to upgrade to first-degree murder with additional evidence. Court-appointed defense counsel was summoned, but Rader declined all advice, only requesting detailed explanation of the evidence. While Rader underwent preliminary questioning, the investigation team continued searching the backyard. Under old wooden planks near the fence, they discovered a plastic box containing multiple memory cards and several 35mm film rolls. One card labeled Ref 2010 held dozens of photo files of women in various city neighborhoods. Many clear faces shot from afar through fences or car windows. Several women were identified as residents in areas Rader once managed camera system checks. The field report immediately added a new entry: supplemental evidence, storage drives with off-duty surveillance data tracking. That evening, in a brief press conference at police headquarters, the Dallas PD spokesperson announced, "Authorities have arrested suspect Eric Rader, 56, in connection with the kidnapping resulting in death of citizen Rachel M. Westley. The 12-year investigation has yielded initial results, with confirmed technical, forensic, and physical evidence. No details were disclosed, but the information was enough to shock the public." Local news outlets unanimously ran headlines: "Retired city worker arrested in 12-year cold case." Rader was held at Dallas County Jail awaiting formal interrogation. The preliminary court report stated clearly, supplemental evidence seized from suspect's residence shows years-long data collection tracking multiple female individuals. Data exhibits control and systematic storage behavior, potentially related to other cases. Donnelly, reading the day's final report, added only one line to her duty log: 12 years 47R, stopped. The first interrogation took place on the afternoon of February 18, 2021, less than 24 hours after Eric Rader's arrest. Interrogation Room 3 at Dallas PD headquarters was set up with 2 cameras, one fixed and one mobile. Sarah Donnelly and Lieutenant Morales conducted it directly. Rader entered uncuffed, neatly dressed in the shirt he wore at arrest. Calm posture, expressionless face, he sat and nodded slightly as Donnelly reread his right to silence. When questioning began, Rader denied all murder-related charges. His voice was even low, almost unwavering. "I never intended to harm her. I just wanted to talk." Donnelly asked specifically what talk meant. He replied after a short pause, "Rachel had complained about the camera system. She thought I installed it in the wrong position. I wanted to explain, to make her understand." According to him, on the morning of September 16, 2009, while inspecting electrical systems around White Rock Lake, he happened to encounter Rachel driving by. Rader said he signaled her to stop when tool for East. To clarify a few work matters, since she had previously sent feedback to Public Works. She agreed to go with me to the Mesquite Materials Yard, to view technical documents, he said. But inside, she lost balance, fell, and hit her head. He described being panicked and not knowing what to do. Donnelly remained silent, only nodding for him to continue. I thought she was unconscious. I tried to wake her, but no response. I feared being accused of assault, so I left. I didn't return. Donnelly opened her tablet, displaying GPS map images, city vehicle 47R, and mesquite coordinates, the remained site. She asked, "Do you know this location?" Rader looked at the screen, eyes briefly narrowing, then replied, "That's an old yard I worked at. I know the place." She flipped to the forensic report page, showing nylon rope and multi-tool knife photos from his home. "Are these yours?" "Yes. Rope for work, knife I've carried for years." "Rachel Westley's DNA is on the knife. How do you explain?" Rader fell silent, hands clasped tightly, veins bulging on the back. After minutes, he sighed. "If her DNA is there, perhaps from when I tried to revive her, I didn't kill her." Donnelly shifted to technical data comparison. She presented the report showing his city vehicle GPS disabled for 18 minutes, coinciding with Rachel's disappearance. "We know where you were and when," she said. "Signal lost at White Rock, reactivated in Mesquite, 8 miles away, target secured. Store under Site M, file created at the same time." "Explain, Mr. Rader." He looked straight at her, unnaturally calm. "I store work documents. Don't remember every line. Site M is an area code." Donnelly did not respond, only placing the silver bracelet photo engraved "Rodeo" in front of him. "She wore this when she died," she said quietly. For the first time, Rader lowered his head, shoulders trembling slightly, but still not admitting murder. As interrogation entered the third hour, Morales changed tactics. He read verbatim the forensic conclusion. "Victim DNA on personal knife, nylon rope matching scene sample, device timestamps aligning with vehicle route." Rader sat motionless, eyes on the table. Morales asked slowly, "Anything to add before we end this session?" A long silence, then he whispered, "I was at that place where she died. I don't deny it. But I didn't do it intentionally." Donnelly looked at him, keeping her voice steady. "You confirm being at the location where she died?" "Yes," he replied. "I just didn't think she would die. I lost control." When asked what lost control meant, Rader did not answer, only glancing at the ceiling-mounted camera corner. For the rest of the session, he repeated the same line. "I didn't intend to kill anyone." When the session ended, Donnelly gathered documents, noting in her log, "Admits presence at scene, knows death location. Statement aligns with GPS data and timelines." The entire interrogation video was backed up as evidence, labeled Rader, Statement 1. Simultaneously, analysis confirmed his fingerprints on the Pargex drive and Site M map file. The alignment between statement, technical data, and forensic results completed the investigation picture, a chain of actions starting with stopping the car, ending where the victim died. That evening, Morales submitted a summary report to the Dallas County DA's office. Suspect admits presence at victim's death location, timeline matching GPS gap. No admission of intent, but physical and digital evidence of firm direct link. The report was filed in Case 09, Wes, TX, marking the end of the initial interrogation phase, where for the first time in 12 years, the man once hidden behind a dedicated engineer's facade admitted being with the victim at the exact place she died. After the interrogation ended, Eric Rader's file was transferred to the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit at Quantico for criminal psychological evaluation. A report over 60 pages was returned to Dallas Police in early March 2021, comprehensively assessing behavioral traits, psychological patterns, and recidivism risk. The introduction stated clearly, no indications of financial motive, personal grudge, or impulsive outburst. Criminal behavior exhibits absolute control tendency and prolonged observation, typical of obsessive control disorder combined with compulsive stalking behavior. According to behavioral experts, Eric Rader belongs to the category of technical criminals characterized as active collection, passive action. This means he does not attack instinctively, but maintains a prolonged process of silent surveillance, accumulating information until he feels he can fully control the subject. His job profile at the Department of Public Services provided him with ideal tools and opportunities, access to surveillance camera systems, infrastructure data, and free movement around residential areas. The experts wrote, "The work environment legitimizes stalking behavior." Rader views surveillance not as intrusion, but as an extension of oversight, as if he represents order. In the behavioral model section, the report points out that Rader has a tendency to collect, store, and categorize images of women in his living area, using a meticulously organized folder structure, projects. Naming each year and item as a system shows he considers this a personal project rather than wrongful behavior. Analysis reveals repetition in how he assigns codes, P09, RMW, Site M. Similar to the methods of those with obsessive-compulsive disorder regarding structure. Every detail, from numbering to file formats, is maintained over many years, creating a sense that he fully controls his own world. The personality assessment section shows Rader has two distinct sides, a sociable exterior and an isolated interior. In interactions, he is friendly, polite, rule-abiding, but has no deep personal relationships. Colleagues describe him as never talking about emotions and only interested in equipment data. This emotional detachment, according to FBI experts, is the foundation for criminal behavior, where others are no longer human, but merely parts of a system he wants to control. Rachel Westley, in his eyes, was not a victim, but a variable not fitting the process that needed adjustment. The report states, there is no evidence that he intended to kill, but the compulsive control behavior exceeds limits, leading to deadly consequences. This is a form of non-emotional violence. The criminal acts to maintain power, not to satisfy emotions. The experts also affirm that Rader carrying the file target secured is not a sign of planning murder, but his way of encoding that he has stabilized the situations according to his distorted personal view. In his perception, controlling and hiding the issue is handling, not guilt. An important part of the report is the extended assessment section. When analyzing data recovered from seized drives, the FBI discovered a list of more than 20 women in Dallas, Richardson, and Garland, with detailed notes on schedules, habits, commute routes, even times lights are turned on in homes. Many on the list were identified as residents in areas where Rader had been responsible for installing public cameras. Some files contain images taken through windows or backyards, clearly not for technical purposes. This reinforces the assessment that his behavior spanned many years and was systematic. He does not select targets randomly, the report writes, but chooses those with the same profile, independent women, professional workers, low social interaction, often appearing within his work surveillance range. The conclusion section of the Behavioral Unit report summarizes 1. Crime type, compulsive control, no financial motive or impulsive violence. 2. Driving cause, need to affirm power and maintain self-created order. 3. Characteristic behavior, stalking, data collection, classification and storage, strong reaction when the subject breaks the pattern. 4. Recidivism risk, high if undetected. Behavior reinforced through the sense of empowerment from manipulating the environment. In the final recommendation section, the FBI proposes an interrogation model based on control cognitive dissonance instead of direct confrontation, show Rader the logical collapse in the system he created. The subject does not fear punishment but loss of control. When he realizes that all data, equipment, and plans have been accurately reconstructed, he will be forced to face the failure of the model he believes is perfect. A copy of the report was sent to Sarah Donnelly. She read every line in silence. The FBI's cold analyses made everything clearer. Rader did not kill Rachel out of hatred or passion, but because she was the first to step out of the surveillance he believed he held. When she broke the pattern, he had to adjust to restore order, and the result was a death hidden for more than 10 years. In her final short note, Donnelly wrote, "Not insane, not manic, just the need for absolute control." That is the essence of Eric Rader. By the end of April 2021, after nearly 2 years of continuous work, the Dallas Police Department officially completed the investigation file for the case coded 09-WES-TX. The document set, over 400 pages thick, was bound into 4 volumes, accompanied by hundreds of digital files and forensic reports. Lieutenant Morales signed the first page with the note, "Final report, Rachel M. Westley homicide investigation." This file is considered one of the largest cold case investigations ever reopened by the unit. The content compiles all evidence collected during the 2019-2021 period, including digital data recovery results, GPS logs, DNA confirmation, physical evidence, and witness statements. The first part of the report reconstructs the entire case timeline. It begins from the morning of September 16, 2009, when Rachel left home, to when her car was discovered at the East Dallas construction site. Then 10 years later, the body found in Mesquite. The travel map was built using new positioning technology, linking GPS signals from the victim's car, Public Service Vehicle 47R, and coordinates, Site M, extracted from data files on Eric Rader's hard drive. This timeline matches perfectly. 11:38 a.m. public vehicle GPS turns off. 11:56 a.m. turns back on near the Mesquite area. 12:30 p.m. file. Target secured. Store under Site M is created. The seamless chain of data helps pinpoint the exact crime timeframe within 30 minutes. The second part of the file focuses on digital data. The report details the recovery process of USB cam_1609.AV, the only video source capturing images of a white public service truck passing Rachel's house on the morning of disappearance. Metadata confirms the video was created on September 16, 2009 at 8:47 a.m., unedited, and the original camera belonged to the test system Rader installed. This evidence, combined with GPS data and work logs, proves Rader was present in the victim's home area right before Rachel disappeared. The third part includes all biological test results. Rachel's DNA found on the knife blade and clothing in Rader's storage, his DNA present on nylon cord, matching the sample near the body, fingerprints matching on the Project's hard drive. Gene comparison charts and independent verification results are attached from 3 different labs: Dallas Forensic Lab, Texas Department of Public Safety, and FBI Quantico, to ensure consistency. Each result concludes an error rate of less than 1/1,000,000th. The fourth part presents physical evidence: nylon cord roll, multi-tool knife, silver bracelet engraved RW, and hard drive containing Project's folder. All evidence is photographed, coded, and sealed according to federal standards. An attached comparison table describes the link between each item and specific behavior. Asterisk, nylon cord lethal tool, matches sample at scene. Asterisk, multi-tool knife, contains victim's DNA, intermediary object. Asterisk, Project's hard drive, proves planning and stalking, control motive. Asterisk, silver bracelet, victim identification item. The fifth part of the file is the witness statement transcript. The Rader interrogation record is over 70 pages long, copied verbatim from the video recording. In it, he admits being present at the location where the victim died, citing unintentional accident. However, the sequence of answers contradicts objective evidence. For example, Rader claims he only met Rachel for a few minutes, while GPS shows his vehicle stopped in the Mesquite area for nearly 40 minutes. FBI speech tone analysis identifies avoidance signs, changes in speaking speed when mentioning material storage, and nylon cord. The behavioral unit analysis is quoted verbatim in the appendix. The subject exhibits high cognitive dissonance when referring to evidence, typical of concealing intentional actions. Additionally, the file also compiles supplementary data from the second search. Data on drives and memory cards seized at his home shows lists and photos of at least 23 other women, many living in areas under his former technical supervision. Some images have notes route check and pattern log. Although there is no evidence of other crimes, This detail is included in the file as supporting behavioral factor, reflecting long-term control and stalking patterns. The final technical part presents independent FBI verification results. All files in the PROJECTS/P09 folder were created in 2009, with no signs of tampering or alteration. System timestamps and device information match the computer rater registered with the Department of Public Services. Experts describe this storage system as a digitized criminal behavior log. To ensure legality, Dallas PD established a detailed chain of custody catalog for evidence at every step: collector, transport time, storage location, and recipient. The catalog is nearly 70 pages long, signed by every involved individual. Lieutenant Morales views this as the key factor helping the case overcome any legal disputes in court. When synthesizing everything, the conclusion section of the report clearly states: 1. Cause of death: asphyxiation by nylon cord, determined through hyoid bone injury. 2. Means Public Service Vehicle Code 47R, GPS confirming the route from White Rock to Mesquite. 3. Suspect: Eric Rader, former systems engineer at the Dallas Department of Public Services. 4. Motive: compulsive control, deviant behavior without financial or grudge elements. 5. Evidence: DNA, GPS data, physical evidence, digital files, admission of presence at the scene. On May 6, 2021, after the entire file was legally reviewed, Dallas PD officially handed over the case to the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. A closed-door meeting was held at the county building with the attendance of the investigation team, FBI representatives, and the chief prosecutor. There, File 09, Wes TX, was transferred via official minutes, accompanied by a short remark from Lieutenant Morales. 12 years, 2 generations of technology. One case closed through the combination of data and patience. When signing the final page, Sarah Donnelly stood looking at the thick stack of files on the table, feeling both relief and heaviness. Every data file, every number, every photo represented a piece of truth buried for over a decade. The report closed with a bold line on the last page: recommended for prosecution, sufficient evidence established beyond reasonable doubt. The Rachel Westley case officially left police hands to enter the prosecution phase, carrying all the final evidence of a 12-year quest for justice. The trial of Eric Rader began on the morning of September 13, 2021, at the Dallas County Courthouse, more than 12 years after Rachel Westley disappeared. The case attracted local media attention due to its unique nature. A former city engineer, who had helped develop public security systems, was now being prosecuted using the very technology he had built. The large third-floor courtroom was packed with reporters, investigators, and Dallas residents who had followed the 2009 disappearance. The defendant entered calmly, pale-faced, wearing a gray suit prepared by his defense attorney. Before the cameras, he neither bowed his head nor looked around, simply sitting at the defense table with hands clasped in front. Chief Prosecutor Linda Garza, representing the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, opened with a concise statement: "This case is not just about a missing woman, it is about control. One man who believed he had the right to decide another's existence, and for 12 years, he thought he could hide it." Following the opening, the prosecution presented the chain of digital evidence, video, cam_1609.avi, GPS data from Public Service Vehicle 47R, file PROJECTS/P09, and DNA analysis results. Each part was projected on the large courtroom screen, accompanied by detailed explanations from expert witnesses, forensic technicians, data analysts, and lead investigator Sarah Donnelly. Donnelly, in her testimony, clearly outlined the USB recovery process, GPS cross-referencing, and the discovery of the PROJECTS hard drive. When the prosecutor asked about the text file "target secured, store under Site M," she responded calmly. The file's timestamp matches the moment Mr. Rader's vehicle GPS reactivated, right after losing signal near White Rock Lake. This is the piece connecting the entire chain of the defendant's behavior. The jury listened in silence, occasionally taking notes, eyes fixed on the man at the defense table, who only bowed his head, avoiding all gazes. Rader's defense attorney, Douglas Fry, chose a strategy based on occupational accident and cognitive disorder. He asserted Rader never intended to kill and that concealing the body was a panic mistake. In his opening defense, Fry said, "My client dedicated over 20 years to this city. He is not a cold-blooded killer. He is a man suffering from obsessive control disorder, unaware of the consequences of his actions." However, when the prosecution cross-examined with physical evidence, nylon cord, multi-tool knife, and Site M map, this argument quickly lost weight. In the second week of the trial, FBI behavioral unit experts were called as expert witnesses. Their behavioral report was read aloud in court, describing Rader as someone driven by the need for absolute control, and that Rachel Westley had become a control subject who lost compliance. When the prosecutor asked, "Do you see this as intentional behavior?" the behavioral expert replied, "Not in the traditional sense of impulsive crime, but entirely intentional in controlling and concealing consequences. That is also intentional behavior." The most attention-grabbing moment came when the prosecution played Rader's interrogation video. On the courtroom screen, he sat motionless in the small room, voice low and slow, admitting, "I was at the place where she died. I don't deny it." That moment silenced the entire gallery. The defense attorney tried to explain it as an emotional confession, but the prosecutor immediately presented GPS timeline comparisons and DNA evidence, weakening the defense. Forensic experts presented detailed analysis results. Victim's DNA found on the knife blade, nylon cord, and fabric in the defendant's storage. Rader's DNA present in samples collected near the body. Statistical probability of error was projected on screen. The probability of two unrelated individuals sharing the same DNA sequence is 1 in 972 million. The jury noted this evidence as authentic beyond reasonable doubt. At the end of the second week, the prosecution presented its summary. "We have evidence of the route, location, time, physical items, and confession. We have the victim, the weapon, and the chain of concealment. No accident lasts 12 years. They requested the maximum sentence under Texas law, life imprisonment without parole. In the third week, the defense could only appeal for mercy, emphasizing the defendant's age and mental condition. They called Rader's wife as a witness, who tearfully said, "I cannot believe the man I lived with for 30 years could do this. But if he was wrong, I beg that he be allowed to spend the rest of his life in repentance." However, that plea did not change the case's direction. On October 4, 2021, after 3 weeks of trial and 7 hours of deliberation, the jury returned to the courtroom with the verdict. The judge asked the foreperson, "Have you reached a unanimous decision?" The foreperson stood, voice firm. "Yes, Your Honor. We find the defendant Eric Rader guilty of kidnapping resulting in death, and this act contained elements of intent." The verdict was read aloud. No one in the room spoke. Rader stood, nodded slightly, showing no reaction. When the judge sentenced him to life without parole, he only glanced at his wife for a moment, eyes vacant, then looked down. Immediately after the verdict, media outlets ran the story. Major newspapers called it the Dallas utility case, emphasizing the irony. The man who designed the city's protection network exploited it for personal obsession. Local TV stations ran the headline, "Justice for Rachel, case solved after 12 years." In the post-trial press conference, prosecutor Garza said, "Technology helped him stalk the victim, but technology exposed him." The court record noted Rader's final response when asked if he had any words before leaving the courtroom. He was silent for a long time, then said briefly, "I tried to control everything, but I forgot that some things never belonged to me." The judge signaled for officers to escort him. The door behind the courtroom closed, leaving only the murmur of reporters and the sound of pens signing the official judgment. Outside the courthouse, Dallas' sun still blazed. wind carrying heat mixed with road dust. Sarah Donnelly stood a few steps from the crowd, holding the worn-cornered file stack, something she had read, written, and edited for 2 years. The story began with a seemingly simple disappearance, ending with a life sentence for the man who turned surveillance into a tool of domination. On that evening's news, the anchor opened briefly. The Dallas utility case. 12 years, one confession, and justice finally delivered. The Rachel Westley case closed in Texas judicial history as proof that sometimes the very data a criminal tries to hide is what leads him to final judgment. The Rachel Westley case, or as media called it, the Dallas utility case, is not just a story of justice after 12 years, but also a powerful reminder of the relationship between technology, responsibility, and ethics in modern American society. Eric Rader, a dedicated systems engineer, exploited the very surveillance network he helped build to control others. That story reflects a present reality in a country where technology is intertwined with life. The line between surveillance for protection and stalking for control grows ever thinner. Dallas PD's successful recovery of a USB data file after 10 years shows technology's positive power when placed in the hands of those acting for justice. The same tools, cameras, GPS, data, can be used to conceal crime or expose it. The difference lies in human intent and ethics. The lesson from this case is not only for law enforcement, but for every individual in American society today. Be aware of how we use technology, of privacy rights, and mutual surveillance responsibility. Dallas PD proved that technology does not kill people, but indifference and lack of ethical control can create conditions for it to happen. At the same time, the story affirms the power of perseverance. Investigators like Sarah Donnelly, with meticulousness and belief that data speaks, turned a seemingly hopeless case into justice. In modern life, where everything is stored as data, the greatest lesson may be, no truth is ever lost. Only those patient and upright enough to find it again. If you believe justice can always be found, whether after 12 years or from a single data file thought lost, subscribe to the channel to join us in exploring more cases solved through technology and perseverance. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video, where every small detail opens a greater truth.